All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all. First of all, I want to thank you so much for joining this workshop. I'm so excited about it. I've been excited about it since I think all this week. I said, I want to learn me some things. Well, we are here with the G100, the group, the club, the club, G100 Youth Engagement. Our beautiful sister, Dr. Harbina Aurora Rai. She's the visionary and founder. And then Bodil Valero, she is the 2025 president. You guys know who I am. I'm Anita, and I'm the global chair with G100 Youth Engagement. Well, we have our fabulous sister, I call her Zanel. She is Zanel Brown. She is our USA Global Advisory member, and she is expert in the leadership assessment workshop, and she's going to share some things with us, and we're going to learn some things about our leadership. And without further ado, again, thank you guys for joining us. I offer you our beautiful sister, Zanel.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. And thank you, everyone, for being here. For me, it's an early Sunday morning, but like Anita said, we're global, so it could be different times around the globe. So thank you for taking time out just to be here with me. I'm going to share some slides. I'm going to ask that you have some paper with you because we're going to do a couple of exercises. I'm going to ask for participation. Feel free to come off mute. You can turn your cameras on, you can leave your cameras off, but the learning really comes from the conversation. I'm going to give you some tools and some things to think about, but the learning comes from the conversation. And today we're going to be exploring leadership through the lens of DISC, D-I-C, I'm sorry, DISC. It's early here, like I said. And there are a number of DISC assessments that are available. Some you can pay for online, some are free online. You can do the full assessments there. But we're going to basically abbreviate that and get to some nitty gritty. And then we're going to start looking at it how, through leadership, the DISC actually plays out to help you improve your leadership skills. What I would like for you to know, just as far as history, the DISC, the theory itself, was developed by William Moulton Marston. This man was an attorney, a psychologist. He created like the first polygraph test. He was one of those people who were out there where self help wasn't even a thing, authoring books. And guess what? He created the wonderful character Wonder Woman. So we're looking on something that's, deeply based that possibly will resonate with us all. So I'm going to do screen share. And Dr. Powell is probably going to tell you something that you have to give me permission to screen share. So let me go ahead and throw our PowerPoint up. And I'm waiting for it to load on your side. There it is. And basically, we're looking at the disc through how do we discover ourselves and how do we discover the leader inside of us. So, first of all, when people think about leadership, they usually think about, leaders are born. This is a good leader, this is a bad leader. I'm going to ask you to think about leadership the same way you think about shoes. There is usually probably no good way to lead or bad way to lead. There's different styles and different circumstances call from different styles. When you're thinking about a situation when it's emergency and you need people to act quick, you can't have that leader who's like, oh, let me gather all the facts and let's move slowly and deliberately. You need quick action. If there's a fire, I want a leader who's going to say, I got my shoes on and here's the exit. So we want to be aware of that. As we talk about these various styles, there is no best or worst. It's basically what fits the circumstance and knowing what your leadership strengths are, what other shoes or what other styles do you need to complement that with. So just went through like the shoe analogy for you before we go into the disc itself. There are no bad shoes or bad personality types. Styles are different and unique, and different styles are needed in different situations. Styles do not have to be fixed. They change our understanding of who we are. And as we learn who we are, we can change our style to fit the circumstances, to make sure that we're using the right shoes for the appropriate circumstances. You are not going to play basketball in stilettos. So you want to make sure you got your gym shoes ready when it's called for. And the more you know about your style, the more you're equipped to choose the appropriate shoes, the appropriate style for the situation. And even if we don't own a particular style, we can admire it. When we see somebody acting in a certain leadership style, wow, I really don't have that much of that in me, but I like it the way that that person is very thoughtful and want to get to the details in certain circumstances. And we can add to our collection as we learn more about styles. Like I said, we can work on adding that to who we are as part of leaders, depending on what circumstances are. And then we can also discard certain things. Like sometimes when we have to purge our closet, shoes no longer fit, shoes no longer fit certain circumstances. Same thing with leadership styles. You can look at our industries here in the Western culture. It used to be like top down management. You tell people what to do and you expect people to follow. In 2025, you tell people what to do, people will quit. So we don't want certain leadership styles, okay? So you have to be flexible, but this is like this basic knowledge that you learn about leadership styles, what's your natural aptitude to a certain style, and then you can, like I said, complement it, grow in certain areas, release certain areas that you know are not working for you. And like if you're stuck in certain things that you're trying to lead, this may be the thing that gets you unstuck because you know actually what's going on. So let's do 5 learning agreements. Like I told you, the DISC is one tool. There's many tools out there. This is one tool that gives you a perspective of one's personality, temperament, and behavior. We're going to look at it for how to be better leaders. The tool that we'll be using, a lot of the philosophy comes from Dr. Mel Carbonell. And like I said, just one of the assessments that's available. You will have an opportunity throughout this time to share what your DISC profile. And what the profile means is that one of those letters, when I start telling you what the different styles are for the D, I, S, and C, one of those letters is really going to resonate with you. And then you are able to share that with us. And we can talk more about what that style looks like or how do you carry that style. Because certain people, when they put on a different shoe, they have a different style with it. Different people wear the same shoe, but it doesn't necessarily carry the same way on that person, right? So we'll talk about those styles. One of the things you need to know as well, that maybe you have a blend of styles. Maybe you're not just a high D or a high I. Maybe you're a D and an I. And I'm going to tell you more about what those letters mean. But I keep repeating DISC because those are the profiles and the styles that we adopt. And if there's at any point something comes up and you don't feel comfortable sharing, this is a safe space. You can simply say you pass and do not wish to share. We want to be respectful and make sure all confidences are held and appreciated and acknowledged. Okay. So I had you get a piece of paper. Please draw a circle and divide it in 4. So we got a blank circle here, right? First thing, I want you to think of yourself either at the top half of that circle in the red or yellow if you are an extroverted person. What does it mean to be extroverted? Usually it means that you get your energy, you come alive in crowds, you come alive when you know you're interacting and you're speaking with others and others are engaging with you. I want you to think of yourself in the green or blue realm below the horizon. If you're an introvert, you're the person who really goes inside yourself to get energized. And we know that possibly that you have circumstances where you do one or the other, and sometimes you're called to do one or the other, but which one feels like you're natural? So right now you should be thinking of yourself, am I a red or a yellow? Or am I down below and I'm a green or a blue? Okay. Now, I want you to think of yourself if you're on the red side, I'm sorry, if you're on the left side of the circle, how to determine if you're red or green. So, if you like to do processes, you would be a red or green. If you're on the yellow or the blue side, you are the person who is like, processes may be okay, but people are my thing. So remember, we divided in half first, extrovert, introvert. Now we're like red and green. Those are our process people. Yellow, blue, those are our people. So for my red, I would be process and I would be extrovert. If that's you, put a check in there. For my yellow, I would be extrovert, but I focus on people. For my blue, I would be introvert and I focus on people. For my green, I would be introvert, but I focus on processes. So come off of mute and talk to me for a minute. You got your space, you're feeling good and comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Um, let's see. So my first thing I wrote down green and blue because I am an
You're an
introvert.
introvert. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Um, then I wrote down. Let's see. I checked the blue because I'm more of a people than a process.
Okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So even in that quadrant, I'm going to give you something else to think about.
Okay.
When you think about how introverted are you, put a little dot. Remember, we got the horizon that divides extrovert for introvert,
Uh huh.
the yellow from the blue, right?
Right.
When I look in that blue, take that dot down. Like, am I really introverted? I would be here, like on the end of that circle.
Okay. So
If
what was
I'm not really introverted, I
that?
would be like more to the middle of that blue part of that blue part of the section. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm just trying to figure out how do I measure.
Just think of compared to another introvert, where would you fit? Do you think that, when you think about introverts, we know some people who basically, like, say, for instance, you're inviting me to go somewhere,
Right.
and it's places where we're going to be engaging with others. So I don't think you would be on that end of that
Ah,
introvert
I
piece. You see
got
what I'm
you.
saying?
I see.
Okay. So
Okay.
I want you to think of that.
Okay.
And Josu, I'm going to get you in 1 second. So think about that. But then I also want you to think about how people focus you are. So am like midway down vertical because I'm an introvert, but I'm not like always introverted. I,
Uh,
mix it up. And then think about how far to the right, how far to the people side are you?
okay.
You
Oh,
got
I
your little
got
dot.
you.
You're
Yeah.
saying that's me, Anita. Okay. Just think of
Right.
that.
Okay. Hoshway.
Oh, I'm not saying it
Yeah,
right.
hello.
Josue. Okay. Go
Hello,
ahead.
nice to meet you,
You
Zanel.
too.
Uh, the question is actually, I have also the personality that has Anita has, but my problem is the following thing.
Hmm.
Sometimes I feel drained by those people that energize me. I am extrovert person, but I sometimes drain my body, social body, and I need to restore lonely. Like
Okay. So when we think about,
go
hmm
outside, and then I love interact with people, but
hmm
sometimes need to be like more enjoyable
hmm
because sometimes it's drain at all. So sometimes I need a lot of time to restore it, and sometimes I need to lower stuff to restore. So I don't know if I am extrovert or introvert or in the middle, like ambivert or something.
and you very well could be. So you know that you're like probably right there in the horizon line somewhere, right? Now let's figure out
Yes.
around which one of these, the red, yellow, or blue.
yellow and blue,
Okay.
because I love people,
So
and
you know your people.
I'm okay with process. I am really intelligent person, but I'm not like an engineering side. Like
Okay.
do
So you're yellow
do
or blue,
yes,
and you're like probably, like you said, right there in the middle between the yellow and blue line.
yes.
You got some process going on. So it looks like you may be closer to maybe even the center dividing line. The question is whether you're yellow or blue. So let's hang out with that one until we do another exercise.
I think yellow.
Then you know what? If that's your shoe, put it on. Try it on and let's see how it works out. And then if you need to move around, move around. Because the more that you learn, the more you'll be able to really pinpoint what's your disc style, what's your disc profile. So let's hang out around the yellow. And from what you're saying, probably near where the both lines are intersecting, near where the T is around the yellow so far. Does that sound comfortable for the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Anything else before we go to the next slide? Anita, you're on mute.
I just remembered I did that. So the yellow and red are both processes.
No,
That's what.
yellow
Oh,
and red are extroverts.
right.
Red and green are processes.
Gotcha.
Yellow and blue are people.
Oh. Okay. That's okay.
Well,
Okay.
that was my question, actually.
Okay. So we got it.
Uh huh.
All right, let's move on.
100%.
So now you see what the profiles are. If you're in the red, you're a D. If you're in the yellow, you're a I. If you're in the blue, you're a S. If you're in the green, you're a C. So put all the letters in the circle so you know what they are, but circle your letter once you write it in your circle. Got that part?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we talked about the active types. So this is how it's divided. Just a reminder there. The upper part of the circle are our extroverts. They're outgoing. The lower part are introverts. They're more inward and reserved. If you're on the left side, you're task and process oriented. If you're on the right side, you're people oriented. And let me move my thing. I think I'm covering part of the screen. Okay. But now I can't see you. Let me move it up a little bit. Okay. Just a review of what we've done.
Okay.
So when we talk about process oriented, these people love plans and programs and projects and processes. When we talk about people oriented, these are our caring people. These are people who are looking to share with others. They're engaging others. Their focus is on relationships. You know, the rules may be important, but don't nothing matter if you don't have the people. And they are people who are willing to share their emotions. So we're talking about on our left side, when we think of the D and the C, we're talking about form and functions. When we're talking about our I's and our S's, we're talking about feeling and fellowship. Do you feel like you're on the right side based on this information?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So let's go into the circles. Let me tell you about the D. And the D is the shoe that I usually wear a lot. So I know a lot about the D. I know about the strengths, the weaknesses, and I know when I need to take my shoes off and change into something else. And I think that's the most important thing about D. So the D is like a dominant personality that when you go into the room and something needs to be done, and that D can see that that needs to be done, the D is going to say, hey, we need to do, or how do we do, or let's get this done. So they're able to go in and see, hey, we need a process or this isn't working. They're able to structure stuff because they want to make sure whatever the task needed is gets completed. Sometimes when the D delivers this, they're a little too direct because remember, they really don't have that people focused thing really going on. So depending on how far you are on that red from that middle dividing line, that determines like how direct you are. D's are very decisive. Hey, they could have processed all the options really quickly in their mind and they said, this is the way we need to go, and they're ready to go. And other people are still behind them thinking about it. But oftentimes that D is like, let's go. And so you may not even got a chance to get your thought going. So that's what I'm talking about. Like that D, when you know that there's some things you need to work on, could you take a moment and pause, D, and make sure everybody else even understand what you're talking about? And so that's why, like, through the exercise, if I'm going too fast, slow me down. Because those D's, like, I know where I'm going. But it's like you got to make sure the rest of the people know where you're going to, and they're agreeing to go with you. And sometimes the D's can sound like they're demanding. You don't know everything. You got to stop and look and consult the people around you when you're doing a task. That's what calls for success. So the D can be demanding in the way that they approach things, and they need to like slow it down to make sure that people are with them. People oftentimes say, D's make great leaders. Well, if D's look around, there might not be anybody following them. So that's not a great leader, right? So that's what we talk about when we think about our D's and thinking about them as leaders. Let's talk about our I's for a minute. Again, they're extroverted. They're inspiring. When they go into the room, they're going to connect with people. They're going to inspire people. Ah, people love when the eyes come into the room. When the eyes come into the room, the party gets started. You know when the eyes come in. They usually dressed like over the top for the occasion. They know what the theme is, they know what the people are. They're going to engage the people. The eyes are the party starters. And because they not only connect with the people, they're outgoing, they're able to influence people. Hey, join the party with us. Oh, I see you're over there. I see you. The eyes are very much about they will be seen and they will see others. They have influence. They can present things to you in ways that people really understand and grasp. And they're outgoing, so they're not holding it back. They are going to share their ideas with you. And our eyes are really impressive. They're really impressive. One of the things the eye leader has to look out for is to make sure people know that they also have depth and substance. Because we see the outer shell, and you're doing all of this on the surface. Those eyes usually have some core values and core strengths and powerful traits. But we got to make sure that it's not all covered up with the glitz and people forget there's depth to the eyes. Insights. How you feeling with that eye? Do you know some eyes? Okay. Now let's talk about our S's. This is a word that I think is often misunderstood when it says submissive, but what it means is that I will subordinate my ego to make sure that others are seen and heard. That's the way that I view it. It's not that you're submissive and you're timid, but I'm going to subordinate my ego, my individual um, goal to make sure that the group goal is actually obtained, that the people are actually included. So these are our caregivers. They're going to look out to make sure that nobody's left out. They're not necessarily going to be loud and boisterous in their approach like the I who does it, but they'll side up to the person who hasn't been involved and say, "Hey, what's going on? I see you're not involved in, whatever the project is, or you're not talking to anyone, what's going on?" Or maybe I'm not even saying that, but I'm going to approach to find out how is that person doing in this setting? And is there something that I can do to make this person feel more at ease and more comfortable? They're steady. When you're talking about an S, they're dependable, they're reliable, and that's why people are really attracted to them. They're going to tell you how it is. They're going to walk their talk. They're sensitive. They can usually read a room. Like I said, our D's are focused on let's get the job done. The S is looking around the room and saying, well, is everybody on page with this? Or who should I reach out to? And sometimes, that S, you probably need to reach out to that D and tap them on the shoulder. You're missing something here. The one thing that the S needs to make sure of is that they're not holding back. Because of that sensitivity, and others may not have it to the same degree, you need to share it and alert people to the things that they need to be sensitive to. It says that the S's can be shy. So that's, like I said, that may be that withholding or only doing things one on one. Sometimes, because of circumstances, we are required to do things more bold and boisterous. You, as a S, may not feel comfortable in doing that. But if you have a blend, like say a S and a D or a D and a S, maybe you do. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it, alert someone, have a conversation with someone. So the issues that you see do not remain hidden. They need to be addressed. And you may be the eyes, that observer who sees the intricacies. And so your wisdom is needed to be shared. Now let's talk about our C's. Our C's love processes and rules, and they're very precise. They're competent. They want to make sure that things follow directions. So a lot of C's, think of like people who become engineers, that precision, that follow from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. How they sort of different from our D's. The C's are going to make sure we follow every step of the process to get things done. Our D's may be so um, process driven that, well, I really don't see why we need step 2. On Christmas time, Christmas Day, you got to put something together. The D's and grab the screwdriver. The C's that are looking at the directions. So when the D's got the extra screws in their hands, they're like, we probably don't need those. Whereas the C's like, yes, you do. And you're going to find out why you need those extra screws. So it's not like let's getting the process just done. The C's are going to make sure it's done and it's done right. They follow rules. C's like rules. They like structure. They'll make sure whatever process that they're working on, that the structure and the rules are intact. They're cautious. They're not going to be risk takers. Like I said, they know what the process is. And if they are going to take a risk, it's an informed risk. And guess what? They're usually correct. Now, if we want to work on something, C's, probably that correctness, we don't necessarily want to see you in the background like, I told you so. But you can see that we need the C's in the process to make sure that we get the task done and we get it done correctly. So looking at my square as a D, when I think about leadership, I need to engage my eyes who are going to make sure that, hey, everybody knows what we're doing and making sure that all the people are like on board with what we're doing. I'm going to engage my S's because I know that there will be some things I'm not sensitive to that this person would have detected probably 3 or 4 days before it even crossed my mind. And that person may not willingly come up to me. So I'm going to go to my S's and ask them, is there something that I'm missing? Is there someone that I'm missing? It's probably a good question I need to ask. And then I'm going to go with my C's saying, hey, I want to get from here to there, and this is how I'm thinking about doing it. But I know you probably know step 1 through 5 of how it should be done. Can you share with me those steps? Because I don't want to miss anything that's really important. I may be willing to take some risk. Maybe I don't have the 2 years to get this project done, but tell me what the steps are and let me see and let's have a conversation so we can see if we can do it in maybe 18 months or 12 months. I want to be informed as I'm moving forward. So that's the type of leader I want to be when I'm in the D. So come off mute and share some of your thoughts after hearing that. And let me see if I can bring it all up at once. No, I don't think I can. Go ahead.
Okay. I was waiting to see if anybody was unmuting. I didn't want to.
And tell me which one you want me to highlight, because then I know to go which square to go back to, what quadrant to go back to.
Okay, I'm thinking the S.
There you go.
Okay, yeah. Thinking the S. Let's see, and what? Let me see. The S, because I know it's introvert. Um, let's see. But I saw some I.
So, like, remember I said before, you might be a blend.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're blending S and I, that means that number one, you're people.
Oh
People
yeah, I
come
am
first.
people. Yeah, yeah.
And you can be a outgoing people connector. You can be that in the corner people connector. You got people.
Right, right. Yeah. And then I mean, because I mean, let me see, like with, and it depends because I'm thinking about when I'm consulting with claimants.
Mhm.
I know I can get demanding, and sometimes I have to apologize because I say, no, I'm just trying to make sure you know what you need to know, or maybe it's not demanding. I don't know.
Is
What's
it
the red?
influencing?
Well, maybe that's what. Because what I'm
Influencing persuasive?
Okay, because I'm just trying to share with them. Listen, you need to know this. I need to make sure you
Mhm.
know these steps going into this thing here, and it's my job to make sure you know these steps. And I'm going to do what I need to do to make sure you know these steps.
Mhm.
So that's more like influencing.
So it could be influencing Anita, but it could be D too. So
Okay.
one of the things I said, but we have blends.
Uh
But
huh.
just like we have every pair of shoe that I showed you, probably, or access to we have access to all of this. It's just in different
Gotcha.
degrees. And in
Okay.
different circumstances may pull you into the D. Like I don't have a D person to consult, but I know that this is what's needed. I'm going to put on this red shoe to deal with this particular thing. This
Thing.
is not necessarily how I always do things. This is not how I default to doing things. But
Right.
in this circumstance, this is what's needed. And the
Gotcha.
reason that you're doing it still is because of the relationship. So you see,
Yeah.
your people part is still there. But
Right. Yes.
sometimes, there you go.
Yeah. Because I want them to win this thing. I mean, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Yeah. Okay. Okay, because I was thinking like yesterday. Because what is it? Saturday or Sunday?
It's Saturday.
Saturday. Okay. Um, yesterday when I did like a motivational message, it wasn't demanding or anything. It was more to influence how remarkable you are, how this you are. So that
Mm-hmm.
would have been the yellow.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I love this. I love this stuff. Oh, Priscilla has her hand.
Go ahead, Priscilla.
Well, I just want to say thank you for this interactive leadership workshop. You know, um, it's very insightful, and one of my questions that I have is, what do those letters stand for um, in the leadership space?
So the disc, like we just said, the D. Let me go back.
Okay.
The D, most people will say will stand for dominant, but it stands for any of those words in there. And I would say choose the one that most determines or that most describes you if you're a D. For me, it would probably be decisive. The I, inspiring, influencer, inducing, and impressive. Oftentimes people say I for influencer. The S, submissive, steady, sensitive, shy. I usually choose the steady for the S because the submissive piece, like I said, oftentimes is not portrayed to the degree that I think it should. It requires more explanation. So I would say steady would be the S. And the C's, competent, compliant, cautious, correct. Competent is the one that usually, most people or most disc assessments would point to for what it stands for. But like I said, as far as your personal piece and your personal letter, which one of those things best describe you would be how I would say, think of the disc assessment, the letters, the acronym.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Hopefully that was helpful. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, this is very interesting. You know what I'm thinking too. I said, this would be. Hoshway has his hand up.
Go ahead, Hoshway.
Hello. Yeah, actually, I don't know why, but I'm seeing so similar to Anita because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
people oriented and my sensitive as a, I love music. So the music it's going through the art of sensitive, but
Mm-hmm.
also sometimes need to be in D
Mm-hmm.
because we need to do something. So
Yes.
it's quite a blended that you say.
Like I said, sometimes like my nature is probably like an introvert, but I do so much work that requires me not to be an introvert. When I do this, I end up putting myself in the red.
Absolutely.
And so red is basically like the shoe I end up wearing every day. I would possibly thinking using the shoe analogy, I would prefer to go barefoot, but I end up putting on these red shoes every day.
Right.
And so looking at that and saying, okay, my circumstances have molded me. And I'm good at doing this stuff as a D. And sometimes, like you said, when you're drained, sometimes doing this stuff as a D is absolutely draining.
Oh my God.
So I have
I
to
never
do a
seen that.
lot of stuff that's, introverted and away from people. It's like, because I got my job, how I make my living requires that I do this D, and I'm good at it. So it's like I've taken these traits and temperaments that are we're not primary. I've nurtured and then grown them into the D, but I still have this huge piece of me that really likes to sit back as S.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes you need to like reconnect with your letter to be recharged or something like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would go into painting just in the basement by myself, not telling nobody to do nothing.
Yeah.
Not worried about outcome, just in process. So it's very layered and complicated, but this is just saying, looking through your eyes of leadership, where are you usually situated? I'm usually situated in that red box.
I didn't realize actually that other people like feeling the same
Mm-hmm.
the situation. Like trained people but also connecting with the people.
Yes. Yes. So it's like if you take a disc assessment,
Mhm.
you can take it like I'm just taking this for work and do, and you take it just when you're thinking about who you are at work. If you take it like if I didn't have to work and I just the world was my oyster and I did whatever and then take the disc assessment that way, you could come out exactly the same. You could come out differently if you take it at different points in time in your life.
Right.
Could come out the same, could come out differently. But it's like it's information. This is not like typecasting you in concrete. This is who you are, and there's no changing in this, that, and the other. Like I said, 9 times out of 10, you got some of all of that in you. And depending on where you are, or what's your main focus, and what you're trying to do, or what lens you're looking at it through, it may just show up that one thing is dominant, it may show that things are blended. And then depending on whatever circumstances, it may show that even that thing that is dominant, you may have to go in yourself and pull some of the other shoes out of the closet and use them.
That is so true. This kind of reminds me of too that love language, how we change.
Hmm. We are not static creatures. We have multiple identities, but I think there's a core identity.
Right.
And then that's that identity when I'm not looking through that leadership lens. Just who am I?
Right. I would say if I'm not looking through that leadership, that core thing, I'm blue.
Hmm. And it seems like even when you are looking at it, you're either blue or yellow. You still people, right?
Right, right, right.
Hmm.
Mhm. Because I actually like that word, submissive.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead,
think I
Priscilla.
prefer the. I think I in my case, I think I would prefer steady because it makes you feel like you are even though you're in a stressful situation that you know how to manage.
And there's like a ton of probably S words that have a similar meaning. Like I
Mhm.
said, you can choose what your word is. And you can choose it, there's different, like I said, when I did that exercise with Anita, trying to figure out where in this blue are you. I'm smack dab in the middle of the blue, or I'm really, to the right and really people oriented. Where am I in this blue? So it's using this information to help you on your discovery of who you are
Right. This is
and
cool.
how many lenses you want to put on it.
This is really cool.
So you can grow. So those around you can grow. So the
Mm.
things that you're trying to get done in this leadership role get done. How we handle conflict. Our D's oftentimes when they're in conflict, if they don't stop and pause, they're like I said, very directive, very demanding. They want to compete, they want to win, they want to get to the finish line. That's not a very good way to handle conflict.
They have
They
every.
really need to go back. Usually, one of the things that I think the farther you are along, like say if I'm really on that outside of that D, that outside of that circle perimeter, the thing I need to bring me back in is probably polar opposite. So I need to go to the S.
Okay.
If I'm really outside on that I, just being out there all flamboyant with the people or whatever, whatever, I probably need to go back over there to the green and get me some structure. We are not here
Be
just to
all over the
party all
place.
night long. Hashua, Am I pronouncing it right?
Ho- Hoshwe?
Hoshue. Okay.
Yeah,
Go.
actually, I have a question that bump up right now, and
Hmm.
is how does imposter syndrome affect your leadership in whole like circle? Because sometimes I need to do something in one particular side of the circle, but sometimes the imposter syndrome or ego also affect the view that you see the things.
So I haven't looked at it through imposter syndrome. That's a very interesting take on it. And when you said imposter syndrome, what popped up for me was some a recent, and I don't remember who it was, but they were saying oftentimes we confuse imposter syndrome with being in systems that were not built for us to be there to begin with. So we're not really an imposter. It's really dealing at something at a different level. So if I move that theory aside and say, okay, if I'm a D, let's say if I am an imposter, let's say that it actually is imposter syndrome, is not something that's systematic. It would be like wearing ill-fitted shoes, is what I'm thinking. I
Yeah,
can
so
put these shoes on, but this is not my size.
yeah,
And I'm doing what needs to be done in these shoes for the 8 hours, but my teeth hurt because my feet hurt so bad, you know? That's what I would think the imposter syndrome feels like.
yeah, the
Like
view.
for me, it's different. Like, well, like I said, that D, I have those things and I have those traits and I've developed and cultivated those traits, but I still know at my core I'm a S. I don't feel like I'm an imposter when I'm a D. Those are my things and I own that. I would feel like I was an imposter if I was doing I stuff. If that I was really showing up for me on a where I had to be, the face of this, that, and the other, and bring all the people together or whatever, whatever. It's like, no, give me the task and let me figure out the task and how to get there. Doing the I stuff, it I don't even know if I could make. I would have to take the shoes off.
Thank you very much.
That and like I said, I haven't really dealt with that on looking at it through that lens, but that's just my gut reaction of what it would feel like. And I think that's why the shoe analogy for me carries through a lot.
Yeah,
Think back to
actually,
your shoes,
in the
yeah.
true analysis,
Mhm.
bump up the question of imposter because of that you said one choose it's not to your side, but you
Mhm.
need to, but also you need guilty to put your choose needed.
Mhm.
So sometimes you need to like have the imposter syndrome inside in your heart. So yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, that's a great question. Other questions? Well, let me give you a few questions to think about. We talked about that. So we talked about a bit about the conflict. The D's become dictatorial, bossy, too direct, angry. Things that aggravates D's. It could be weakness or indecisiveness, lack of discipline, purpose. We're moving. Why aren't you moving? So need D's, what we need to back off, to seek peace, to relax, to think about things before we start reacting, to be patient, loving, loyal, kind, sensitive, right? Our eyes under pressure, they become hyper, overly optimistic, sometimes immature, irrational, emotional, silly, wordy, sometimes I focus, selfish. The sources of irritation, if you show that you're not interested, or you get pessimism, or you're being so concerned about the details or whatever, time constraints. I's just like, the party starts and the party keeps going until the party doesn't go. The doubt. They are not looking for structure. Remember, they're polar opposite from that C's. They do not like lack of enthusiasm. They don't like lack of team participation. Again, I's. Listen, count the cost of, of what you're doing. Are you doing things that are sabotaging what the ultimate goal is? Because you're not focused, because you're not structured. Do we need to control emotions better? Do we need to be humble? What about some discipline there, some punctuality, and to be careful with words and conscientious? S, make sure that they don't become too subservient. If there's pressure there, do they start to withdraw? Do they become insecure in what they know is true? Do they become fearful, weak-willed, or sympathizers? And whatever they do, hopefully they don't become suckered into somebody else's drama, right? What irritates them? People who are pushy. When there's this instability or this inflexibility, when there's disloyalty, when there's insensitivity, when there's this pride, when there's discrimination and unfairness. Really, with the I's, I mean, the S's, it's like, come on, you got a lot that you're seeing and observing. Make sure that it's shared. Make sure that you're speaking out, you're challenging, you're being assertive, you're being confrontational. Some S's they say are like moody because they see so much and they're able to see and sense the negative pieces of things that, like, say, our I, when it comes to people, often overlook. That S is picking that up. So for them not to be brooding or brooding alone, if there's something going on, be bold and make sure it's shared. With our C's, they too can become moody. They can become critical because remember, they know the process. So they can point to where you went wrong and how you went wrong and why you should have listened to them. They can become worrisome. Well, what about step one, Roman numeral I, A, B, C, D, And everybody else is like, can we just get the job done? They're sources of irritation because they're so competent. They may not tolerate those who are not competent or don't know the rules or seem disorganized. They don't like things that are inaccurate or inconsistent. They don't want you out there on blind faith. So our C's, loosen up, communicate with others, be joyful, be positive. Let's trust. Let's get a little risk going on and be willing to compromise. So we talked about the styles. The D's may feel very comfortable and enjoy leadership. They will work hard. They can do difficult things. They're focused on the process and not people. We've went over that like 20 million times. They're bottom line direct and they're fast. Direct and decisive. They will raise their hand to lead. If you say, hey, we got a project and we need a leader, watch next time you're in a circumstance and that happens, the people who put their hands up probably are your D's. But they need to be able to define the difference between leadership and control. They need to make sure that when they're in that leadership position, that they do slow down and they make time and space for others and acknowledge that other people have needs. And it's not just about your project getting done. Make sure those needs are attended to. And like I said, if you can't do it by yourself, scan the room. Where are my S's at? Where are my people at who are going to make sure that the people are taken care of? So that's just asking what type of shoes come to mind. So our I's, when there's a performance opportunity, someone to be the face of a project, I will usually raise their hand. They don't mind being at the front and on stage. And they're good at it. They will influence. They are articulate. They will persuade people to your purpose. They can influence without title and credentials. You can look at an eye and you're believing them and everything like that, and you're following them. And then you think about okay, so this person may be the person with lived experience. Maybe they don't have the PhD, but they're just as influential as if they did. They're good talkers, but they could actually work on listening a little more. Because they're such a people person, they may be seeking approval of people. So they have to make sure they're not doing that to their detriment. They're impressive and positive. Like I said, they love crowds, very comfortable with attention. Again, they need to ensure others that there's more to me than this pretty face. It glitters, but it is 14 karat underneath. They may appear proud and self-centered. And again, like I said, they just need to make sure that there's a connection, that there's some deep value inside. Our S leaders are the thoughtful leaders. They're going to check on the people who are involved in the program. They're seldom demanding. They're friendly and loyal because they're about relationships. And it's not like everybody needs to know we have our relationships. They're about genuinely building connection. They may tend to want to do supportive roles and not lead, but they don't realize sometimes that part where you support may, in fact, be actually what we need in a leader, depending on the circumstance. And we do need for their needs to be met like everybody else's. So they shouldn't, subject their needs all the time to everyone else's. Be aware of where they fit and make sure that their needs are addressed. Our S's tend to be perfectionists. So that we need for them to realize perfection may not actually be attainable or may not even be necessary. We want them to take risk and we want them to lead. And we want them to ask for our support. You can't always be the one, supporting everybody. You need to be supported as well. So S's don't put people's oxygen mask on before you put your own on, right? They are reliable, relaxed, and reserved. They're security oriented. For our C's, these are usually our subject matter experts who choose to go by the book. They will make sure things are right. They know the details. They are informed and opinionated. They can be very serious because, they're locked down into the details. However, as things get more complicated, they may be so many details, so much information that everybody else can't handle all of that. So be aware of what your project is and the audience is, and make sure you balance that amount of information that you're sharing and that depth of information. And make sure you're not paralyzed by getting more information on top of more information, looking for perfection. At some point, we have to execute. As we talk about people as leaders, also think about if you're not that person, what does it take for people in those various disc profiles to follow you? So our eyes, they follow people with their heart. So that means the eyes really have to feel like, oh, this is a wonderful person before you get their buy-in. Our D's want to follow people who know their staff and who know their stuff, and they act accordingly. And so the D's need that self assurance. We're going to get to the finish line. Our S's are saying, I follow people or I put my trust in people who think of others. And generally, our C's are going to follow people who got some facts and information. So if you're standing up there and they ask you for a source and you can't answer, you probably lost the C. They want to know where did you get that information? Has it been tried before? When you're thinking about your team dynamics as you're leading or even as you're a part of a team, think about how many D's you have, how many I's you have, how many S's you have, how many C's you have, and is it the right mix? Because things don't get done unless all of those are represented and everybody has that buy-in and that opportunity to contribute. Or if things get done, like I said, if you've done it and it's all on D, You probably got dead bodies and hurt feelings behind you. If it's all on C, you probably are still waiting to get it done because you're bogged down in the details. If you did it with the I, it looks shiny on the outside, but people are going to question whether you got the value of it. If you did it with the S, we're wondering, because we're working for getting everybody's buy-in or going one by one by one. Again, we're making steady progress, but did we get it? Did we actually meet to the goal? Did we get to the point that we got people to buy in, that we have to put action behind the words as well? So look at your team dynamics. I talked a little bit about when there's conflict, natural negative responses. D's want to attack, compete, and win. I's, because they're people oriented, they can deteriorate to where they're trying to expose like lacks in others, like how others could have done differently, how others could have contributed. And I usually associate with this, like usually the gossipers. So we don't want our eyes to do that and be aware of that. And our S's, they'll withdraw because they're like, I'm just out of this project. This is not going right. I'm just going to withdraw instead of address what the conflict is. And then the C's are going to pinpoint, criticize, nitpick. So be aware of that and then figure out how do you counteract those things when they come up in your team dynamics. I'll be doing a workshop with a group later this week, and we're looking at, who's on their team, looking at debriefing some of the instances where team things fell apart, and then asking what could they have done differently, or who should have stepped up in those circumstances because they have some natural abilities in those areas to ensure that the team is acting as a team and not being destructive. So D's, restore with love, restore with sensitivities. I's, take the focus off yourself, look to what others can actually contribute. S, care enough to actually confront when there's circumstances of conflict. And C's, examine yourself first. You're looking at what the rules and everything like are first, but you need to turn into a people focus. And the first person you can focus on is just yourself. So that's our leadership. Hopefully, when you're looking at this through leadership, you see where you are, what things you do and you do really good, what things you can actually improve on and grow, how you can actually be a better leader, how you can actually be a better team player. Questions?
This has just been awesome. You know what I'm thinking about that for next year, coming next year, I do want a team with the Tap Into You. And I'd like to, the people that may come aboard, I'd like to say, okay, now let's do schedule a schedule a a leadership assessment so that we all can get together so that I can know, okay, they say you delegate according to a person's talent. Well, you got to know the talent. So that's what I'm thinking. I think this is absolutely awesome.
I think it's wonderful for teams. It's good to know. For me, like I said, if I'm a D in my office, because of the work that I have been most successful when I've had eyes on my team. I
Yeah,
need somebody to be the face. It's like I can get the train from here to there. I may not do it in the most sensitive way. So I need somebody to make sure people understand. And what I'm thinking that's going in my brain as I'm moving it, I need for somebody to say, okay, let me articulate that. Let me
right,
go around and sell your ideas.
absolutely. Oh, so an I would be more of a marketer, public
Yeah.
relations person.
hmm I would be perfect in that. I would be absolutely perfect in that.
Right. This is awesome.
Remember, influencer, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Other questions? Go ahead, Priscilla.
Um, well, I just want to not much of a question, but more of a comment. And I would just want to say that this workshop has been a very insightful leadership assessment workshop because it makes you understand what style you are in terms of leadership. Um, like for example, in my case, I like to I'm more people oriented,
Mm-hmm.
and I like to influence. I like to speak up, and I'm more of an assertive type, and I like to express, okay, this has to be that way, or maybe I would say, maybe if you could do this step in a certain way, and then the other people would be like, oh, this is a great idea,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe maybe we can make it work so that it could be that way, things like that, right?
Yep.
So in my case, like I like to engage people.
Okay. Sounds like you're I. That's awesome. Awesome. Like I said, a team needs everything represented. And if you're looking at your team and you see something that's not represented, somebody's gonna have to fill that void. Because the circumstances is to function well as a team, to get things done, to take care of people, we need all of that. And that's why I said sometimes when those blends come through, you're like, okay, I may not have it all, but I know that, you have this blend. And then if I'm looking at whatever we're doing and something's missing, and I was like, okay, I know I don't have an eye here. I need for someone to step up to be that influencer and that marketer. So it may not be what they're naturally prone to do, but is someone willing to take that on and learn it? And because we're going to need that to get our we got a great product, we got it to the finish line, but a great product isn't great if people aren't buying it. So absolutely. Yes.
The people usually that are the eyes, the usually they could be great in terms of sales because they could
Hmm.
influence people to buy products.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, you can't create anything of value unless it gets to the customer. Your eye is that link. They're that person. And if, like I said, if you don't have an I person, you can't afford to have an I person, somebody's going to have to step into that role. Yeah. So it has been my pleasure to spend my Saturday morning talking to you about something that I just find very endearing. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways to look at leadership, a lot of different assessments you can take. But for me, when I'm looking at it, especially like through teams, DISC is easy, simple, relatable, and fun.
Absolutely.
So hopefully you discovered a little bit more about the leader in you, and hopefully you discovered a little bit more about you.
100%.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Zanel. Zanel B. Brown, Esquire. This has been absolutely phenomenal. So now, let's see. I'm going
Let me
to,
stop to share. There
and
we
I'm
go.
going to stop the record.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you all for being here. You know that you are so much appreciated, and I see that everybody had fun as well as I. And we're going to have to do this again. We're going to have to do this again, and I'm going to practice on and really look at what I've come up with. And I'm just looking at here how to stop the recording. I don't know.
I don't know either, doctor.
Let's see. Should be so. Oh, here we go.